get cracked down on. You can't end that cushy lifestyle. And lastly, over at YouTube, Super Chat, thank you guys for being there as well. You help the whole network go. Gino says, should we do something about the road? Nah, just give it a badass nickname. I'm not sure I guess the safety features that they try to put in, guardrails and things like that. But apparently, since it happens not all that infrequently, that maybe they haven't tried too many things, or maybe people find their way around it. I mean, a car can drive off and go through a few things, and there's probably some view thing that people like as well. Who knows? But it's the type of stuff I generally avoid. It's just, I don't have a fear of heights. I just don't like driving near edges of cliffs. Call me crazy. Yeah, I'm crazy. Miranda, thank you for joining me on the show today. Good stuff. I appreciate you again. Happy New Year, you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you guys also for joining me on the show. Next, we got John Iadarola with The Damage Report. Go join him there. I'm sure he's got a fabulous show for you guys. We'll catch you guys tomorrow, already on a Friday. It's such a short week. We'll see you guys then. Looking forward to it.
Welcome back, one and all, to another episode of The Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and very lucky to be joined on the show today by Farron Cousins. Farron, how's it going?
Pretty good. Just enjoying the insanity for a little bit. Eventually it's gonna get old, but right now it's still kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, I want you to have fun, which is why, as a belated Christmas present, I set up utter chaos in DC to make sure that we'd have something fun to talk about. And I heard that you were a fan of clowns, and so I decided to fill Congress with them. But anyway, very glad to have you here. We are indeed going to be talking about what's going on with the battle to see if there will be a speaker at some point. I'm actually watching it live as we're recording this, and so if anything particularly insane happens, we'll be able to respond live. But in addition to that, we've got last night the big old brawl between Lauren Boebert and Sean Hannity. That's gonna be fun. I say let them fight. And aside from all the speaker stuff, we have other topics to talk about as well, including how a Tesla potentially being intentionally driven off a cliff is good news for Elon Musk or something. Andrew Tate suffering consequences that might hit him a little bit harder than even being held by the authorities. And then if you stick around for the aftermath, we've got robot lawyers, Fox News once again going after the unhoused, and the war against AI entering a new phase. So everyone stay tuned for that. And in anticipation of that, please hit the like button, share the stream so people know we're live. And if you wanna reach out to us, send us any comments, tweets, or super chats. We'll respond as we go. But with all that said, Farron, are you ready to start the show?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's have some fun. Let's start with this.
If you pick, Jim, just how insincere the insurrectionists are, I probably shouldn't use that word, the people that don't want to vote for Kevin McCarthy.
They would disagree with that word.
Saboteurs.
So you can tell Republicans are getting a little bit frustrated with the process to choose a speaker when they're declaring that the defectors are insurrectionists, and then realize, oh, bit of a loaded word in today's political rhetoric. We'll go with saboteurs. That's better. That's worse. That's someone who like surreptitiously hides a bomb or something, or takes out your plane. Somehow that's better. But look, as frustrated as Fox and Friends are, I have a feeling there is no one more frustrated right now than Kevin McCarthy, because I was fully prepared to start the show today telling you that he had lost a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth ballot to become the speaker. But I'm looking at it right now. He's lost his seventh as well. It's not totally done yet, but unless everyone that remains leaves the room, I think he can't win. So it was already historic, and now it's 7 times historic. He is losing over and over and over again. And I will remind you that as we've gone from ballot to ballot, he has incrementally been losing votes. If you take a look at the first 6, he'd gotten 203 initially, that dropped down by the 3rd ballot. And then in the 4th ballot, he began to lose, I believe it's Victoria Spartz, who technically still supports him, but is voting present. So we don't know the final count on ballot 7, but as of right now, I mean, he's starting off day 3 with another loss, Farron. What do you think?
It's just, how many more times can he continue to do this? I mean, eventually you would just think as a normal person, right? If you go and you lose 7 times in a row, eventually you're gonna be like, you know what, this just hurts. I am a person and I have feelings, and I have to go home and face my family, and they're gonna ask me, well, how was your day today? And say, not good. But no, this is just absolutely unprecedented. And I really do think that McCarthy and the saboteurs, they've dug in so deeply now that neither can back out. I mean, that's what's beautiful about this. Everybody is so hell-bent on, holding the line that I don't see an end to this. I mean, could this go into the weekend? I mean, could this go all the way through the end of the month? They seem willing to make it happen. McCarthy is not gonna go anywhere. And they announced this morning, we're not gonna make a deal with Democrats. Well, okay, then have fun not having a Congress for God knows how long, because that's where we're headed.
Yeah, and look, and that's where it gets unfortunate. So thanks, Debbie Downer, for reminding us that technically there are some things that they need to accomplish from time to time. For now, though, I can't speak for you, of course, but I can say that I'm ready for this to go for quite a while. Makes them look like absolute clowns, which is accurate, and so I don't especially mind. Look, devil's advocate, I guess. I bet he consoles himself and his core supporters, maybe his family members, his friends, if a person like Kevin McCarthy has friends, I guess everyone does, would be to say, sure, this is highly embarrassing, and I will go down in modern history for this and probably nothing else. But because the opposition are such clowns themselves, like, can you be that mad when you are being pulled down and like stopped from doing what you believe is your right and what many people are telling you, a position you should have? And it's people like Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert. Like, I would turn, instead of shame, I would turn the rage at him. But by the same token, he was able to win over Marjorie Greene. And if he can win over Marjorie Greene, why are you having so much trouble winning over Lauren Boebert? The whole thing is embarrassing, honestly, for everyone involved.
Well, and I think a big problem that he's having with trying to win over these Freedom Caucus folks is that there's no real clear demands. This opposition to McCarthy, as we all know, it actually started 2 months ago. Pretty much right after the midterms, Matt Gaetz was like, I am not gonna let this happen. I've got my gang of 5 over here. We're opposing it, but they couldn't actually articulate why. So we've just been going along, and now, of course, they're starting to say things like, well, because we're gonna drain the swamp, as Gaetz said earlier this week, and we don't want the big alligator in charge of the swamp. Wonderful, that doesn't mean anything though. Those are just random words you've put together. Lauren Boebert doesn't know what she's demanding either, because McCarthy has offered them the moon and the stars. He's even said at this point this morning, it came out like, listen, I'll go with your plan to where if even one of you objects to me, get me out. Like, but no, even that they're like, nope, we're in this to win it. We just don't know what we want to win. It's nonsensical is the whole point.
I agree. And look, even to the extent that some of them have made some specific claims, it's difficult to see as anything other than I'm coming up with this now to lend a bit of, like, I don't know, dignity to what I'm doing, which is clearly undignified. But I'm very glad that you brought that up, because there's like nothing I want to talk about more right now than the concessions that he's made. So let's jump into that. Kevin McCarthy, it was leaked last night, is ready to make concessions to the holdouts. And you're probably wondering, which concessions? And my answer to that is all of them. Like, every single thing that you can identify that one of the holdouts specifically wants, it looks like he's ready to cave on basically all of it. And some of this could change with negotiations, but according to what we know now, he is going to change it to allowing just one member to call for a vote to oust a speaker. 2 different sources confirm that. That's one of the big things that someone like Lauren Boebert would talk about. It isn't good enough to just allow 5 to do it. They want any one rando to be able to do it, so he's conceded to that. He's gonna allow more members of the Freedom Caucus to serve on the powerful House Rules Committee. They say maybe a third of the House Rules Committee, which is very powerful. Has to do with a lot with how the House actually functions, what legislation comes up for a vote. So now more of the craziest people in the Republican Party will be able to determine what votes are actually held, and promises to vote on specific pieces of legislation like a term limits bill, border security. That might be Lauren Boebert's bill that she's occasionally talked about, I'm not sure, but those specifics too. Let's see, the New York Times confirmed the third of that Rules Committee part of it. Bills on allowing people to like make individual amendments to bills that defund parts of the government. Like, basically at this point, he has delegated so much of the power of the speaker to literally anyone who wants to kick him out at a moment's notice, as well as to the Rules Committee. And taken together, those are massive concessions. So he might become speaker as a result of it, but the speakership he'll hold will be the weakest it's been in literally decades. And to make it even more embarrassing, and this is like my main source for Schadenfreude today, sources say it likely won't get him to 218 votes. I mean, we know right now it didn't on the 7th ballot. Maybe they're still working out some parts of that deal, but it doesn't look like even making all of those concessions, giving in basically to everything that Lauren Boebert has pulled out of her wherever, to say this is why it's a principled thing. None of that looks like it's gonna be enough to actually get him in the speakership. And so a guy that already came into this process looking desperate became far more desperate. And even that, Farron, it's left, like, what does he have left to give?
He could walk in there and be like, all right, listen, last concession. Every day before we start, I'll stand here. Each one of you just line up, kick me right in the grapes if you want. I don't care, whatever it takes. I want to be the speaker. I mean, that's really, the last concession he has to make, because otherwise there's nothing left of the speakership. You've given every piece of this to the hardcore right. And the thing about this is, even if, let's say for a second, McCarthy doesn't win, he's gonna be replaced with somebody who's probably going to be worse, somebody that will appeal to that Freedom Caucus. So however this ends, with McCarthy making all the concessions and winning, or losing and we get a Freedom Caucus person in there, they've won. And I think that's the big thing that they understand too. However this ends, they're the victors and McCarthy is the loser. So that's why they don't want to back down. They've got all the power and they've proved it, 7 times now, maybe 8 by the time we finish here today. Who knows at that point? I don't think there's enough pizzas in DC for Kevin McCarthy to bus them in and try to, bribe these people with pizza and soda. It's not gonna happen. They've won, they've got you, and he doesn't know how to get out of it.
100%. Yeah, you're totally right. I like your last concession. I think you should try it. I don't know if it would succeed, but I want to see this reboot of the Grapes of Wrath. But anyway, here's another concession that was made. This concession, by the way, wasn't even made by Kevin McCarthy. And you're probably wondering, wait, who else could make a concession? Well, it's the Congressional Leadership Fund, Super PAC, endorsed by Kevin McCarthy and Club for Growth. So they announced a deal to stay out of open house primaries for safe Republican seats to win over people, saying, "Oh, we're not gonna be doing the challenging that we normally do. If you will please just let this guy get through." Is that gonna work? Well, again, doesn't look like it, because as of right now, Jeffries is at 209. We'll see if in the 7th ballot Kevin McCarthy has lost more votes. We don't know that just yet, but the whole thing is just, it's not looking good. And to your point, by the way, I do want to say about them having all the power. We have to remember one thing, one fundamental asymmetry between our opposition and us is that they don't care if everything comes to a grinding halt. Like, we find that to, at least in the long term, be terrifying, because no, like, we need to fix these problems. No, they don't care. They're not, there's some things they'd like to have done. There's nothing they desperately need to be done. They got the tax cuts multiple times over. They're doing just fine. The subsidies and all that have gone out. They would love to just hold this position. And so when Lauren Boebert goes on the news and says every day we've shut this down is the day money isn't being spent, it's not really how that works, but it stops any new spending from being authorized, certainly.
Well, and I think too, Ronna McDaniel needs to come out. She's still the leader of the Republican Party for now, at least on paper. She could come out and do whatever it takes to put an end to this. She was interviewed yesterday. Stuart Varney on Fox Business gave her absolute hell for having no ideas, no solutions. And the solution that she should come out with is say, listen, we look like idiots. We've got the global media mocking us right now, not just here in the US, around the globe, people are looking at us and they're laughing. So what I'm gonna say as the chair of the Republican Party is, if you do not get this right, if you cannot get together and put McCarthy in there, when 2024 rolls around, you're cut off. Your primary challengers will be supported by us. We will not tolerate this kind of mockery of the Republican Party. She could do that, but instead, like she told Stuart Varney yesterday, she's like, "Oh, I'm optimistic. They're gonna work it out. No problems there," which is why, of course, she's struggling so bad as the leader of the party, because she has no ideas. She has no backbone, and they're just letting the wackos take complete control of everything.
Yeah, that would be a bold move. I mean, it strikes me as fundamentally awful for a party apparatus to do that, to support one. But I mean, there's a Republican Party. They could do that. Trump would, like, if Trump really cared, he could throw his weight around in that way. But that's a big step. We'll see. So I would put it as, that's like the biggest threat. Offering to get kicked in the nads would be right here. Here's an easy, doable one. Here's some advice for Kevin McCarthy. Have you considered speaking out in defense of yourself? Like actually standing up and saying why people should vote for you. Like we're on the 7th vote, and I don't know if anybody has missed this. He has not done that yet. Vote after vote after vote after vote. Many speeches have been given by many people, repeatedly by the same people. He has not tried in public to make the case, either individually to persuade them or to the country, to the Republican voters, to put pressure on people to support him. It's all this backroom stuff. So we'll see. He's at 19 votes down right now. We'll see if it passes the 20 mark, or I should say the 21 mark, which is the low point for him so far. But we have a little bit of fun before we find out the final result. If you think that this has been embarrassing for Kevin McCarthy, I think that you're right. It's also been embarrassing for Donald Trump, who called up the defectors and tried to get them to support Kevin McCarthy, and they declined to do so. Now that looks bad for him that he didn't move a single one of them to support the guy he endorsed, but he wants you to understand that this is actually a good thing. He bleated, "I actually think that a big Republican victory today, after going through numerous roll calls that failed to produce a Speaker of the House, has made the position and process of getting to be Speaker bigger and more important than if it were done in the more traditional way. Much like me again becoming president after having won big in 2016, gotten many millions of more votes in 2020, but supposedly not winning, big lie, and then winning again in 2024. It will be bigger than the traditional way." So I hadn't thought of it that way. That like, honestly, being like Nancy Pelosi and winning on the first vote, that's weak. You wanna lose and lose and lose, then win. And that's a show of strength. Farron, what do you think?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous. But of course, Trump had his feelings hurt. He calls all these people, he puts it out on Truth Social. You gotta support McCarthy. He's the guy. And I think he could end up doing good, maybe even great, he said yesterday. Well, and then the first vote happened yesterday, and McCarthy had lost another one. And he actually lost support from the day before. So Trump's endorsement, as it typically does, backfired spectacularly for the person he was endorsing. And when you have members of the Freedom Caucus, like Matt Gaetz came out yesterday and said that it was sad. Okay, that's treading a thin line there, buddy. You don't want to make Trump mad. Boebert called Trump out on the House floor in her speech.
Yep.
They're showing him that, listen, we've kind of understood something in the last 2 days, and it goes back to that whole thing. We actually have the power. What are you gonna do, Donald? Are you gonna get on Truth Social and say that, oh, we're bad now? We've already got the support. We are taking over. We are the rightful heirs. The way I described it, Trump himself was the Frankenstein's monster of the Republican Party, right? They created this thing. Suddenly they realized they can't control it. It's out there terrorizing the city. But then Frankenstein's monster created its own monster, and that is your Matt Gaetz, your Boeberts, everybody in the Freedom Caucus, basically. So now the monster's monster is out there running amok, and nobody knows how to control this either, but they're not afraid of the former master, is the big takeaway here. And it's horrible for Donald Trump. He can send out as many posts on Truth Social as he wants, saying that, oh, this was the plan all along. Because you definitely want to lose before you win, because then you look like a bigger winner. But we all know what he's trying to do. He's trying to console himself because his former proteges don't care what he has to say anymore. And that's the biggest hit to his ego he could get.
Yeah, they're just, the fear is draining away. Like Matt Gaetz, as you said, Lauren Boebert being like, you know what Donald should do? He should get on the phone and talk to McCarthy. You're telling him what to do? And every time they make a move like this, I just imagine a velociraptor like laying a claw on the electric fence and testing it. And eventually they don't get shocked. And that's when you have Jurassic Park. They're not scared of him anymore. I think that Donald Trump has done actually a better job than I would have expected of not freaking out over this, because there is no way that he doesn't understand what I'm saying and what you just described. That as bad as the midterms largely being blamed on him was, I mean, that's one thing to pick a candidate and have the candidates be rejected. That looks bad, but you can sort of say that that's on the candidate. when you're coming out and endorsing someone like Kevin McCarthy and a pack of people that say that they're MAGA, that you endorsed, that have always been closely affiliated with you, that not a single one of them would switch over is just highly embarrassing. And then to not have a single one of them, because right now he's down 21 votes. That's as much as he's ever been down. I think it's done. Not a single vote switched over after all of those concessions that we just talked about, which honestly, kind of a little bit messed up actually. Not one of you was being serious about the things that you said you wanted. Like, I don't like these people and I don't like the concessions, but I kind of feel like it should have earned a few, honestly, like speaking in defense of Kevin McCarthy. But anyway, the whole thing is just so embarrassing. I wanna just quickly play one last video and get your reaction, because it is possible that we could eke out a bit more embarrassment for Donald Trump. Charlie Kirk has an idea how we could make that happen.
Now, I did tweet this morning that I thought Donald Trump should personally fly up to Washington, D.C. and broker a deal, whether that's in favor of Kevin McCarthy, in favor of Byron Donalds. He did write the art of the deal. He was able to do Middle East peace with Israel and Saudi Arabia and the Emiratis. He was able to renegotiate NAFTA. He knows how to strike a deal, and he still has a lot of political power. I don't think it's actually in his interest to do this in favor of Kevin remotely. If Kevin McCarthy ends up failing, one of the leads will be Donald Trump's endorsement does not mean that much anymore. So you can't get half pregnant here. This is my advice to President Trump. I think he should fire up Trump Force One, fly into Washington, D.C., come and act like the magnanimous leader that he is, and call a meeting.
Please fire up Trump Force One. Please go to DC and go walk down on the House floor. And I want to see Lauren Boebert spit in your face. No, like, God damn, Charlie Kirk is an idiot. First of all, no, he didn't write the art of the deal, you moron. Nobody actually thinks he wrote that. How could you possibly think that? And maybe this is sabotage. Because this is not looking good for Kevin McCarthy. It was already dangerous for Trump to weigh in at all. If he goes in person, he's gonna end up looking terrible. Why would Charlie Kirk give him that advice, Farron?
It's so weird, just the godlike worship that you hear in Charlie Kirk's voice when he's saying this. Like, he did all of these things that I'm totally making up in my brain, but I genuinely believe he did them. And then saying, oh, well, he could Trump Force One and he could walk in there and get everybody in line. I don't know how you actually hit that level of either stupidity or just downright blindness to reality, but somehow Charlie Kirk is there. And I think he's somewhere in the middle between being blind to reality and just being painfully ignorant about things. But either way, Donald Trump is not the silver bullet here. He is not the great kingmaker that he and Charlie Kirk think that he is. He is a liability for the Republican Party. Everybody that knows anything has been saying that for 7 years now, but they still can't grapple with that reality because their careers are tied to Trump, right? And that's part of the problem too. When you hitch yourself to that wagon, you're stuck with it. Otherwise, you're gonna get left behind because you have put all of your stock into this guy. So Kirk has to do this. And again, whether or not he's setting Trump up for massive failure, which would be hilarious, who knows? But he's going to have to continue to defend Trump because that's what he has become now. This is his whole identity.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, we're gonna see if they launch into the 8th ballot while we're live. But for now, we are gonna take a break. We come back though, I wanna check in on Lauren Boebert, who did not receive the sort of welcome on Fox News last night as she might have expected. We'll have that for you after this. Okay, everybody. And to quickly add on to what you said, it is interesting that Marjorie Greene, who was attacking Ron DeSantis like a month ago, is now one of the only of this particular brand of total right-wing weirdo who has been voting for McCarthy every time it is publicly attacking people like Matt Gaetz, calling him a liar. She clearly has decided that no, Donald Trump is still the way to go. And that is looking like a riskier bet every day. Okay, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. Loretta Smith said, let the Republican soap opera begin. I agree, or continue. We are in day 3 after all. Derek Casagrande, member for 24 months, says, let's all just bask in the thought of McCarthy sitting there like, you guys, come on, I wanna be speaker. Thanks for all you do, John and Farron. You are my 2 favorite political YouTubers. Thank you very much, it's very kind of you. Aria, member for 18 months, says, hi, John and Dragons. Hi, Farron, I always love to see you on TYT. I do too, but bear in mind, you can also see Farron not on TYT. You can see him on his own program as well. Farron, where can they do that?
YouTube.com/The Ring of Fire, and of course, YouTube.com/Farron Balanced.
Nice. Yeah, no, he talks about news like all the time. Like it's almost like every day, actually, that you can go see Farron talking about news.
7 days a week, 2 different channels. Yep.
There you go. Kimberly, member for 23 months, says, John, watch Mythbusters. They tried landing a plane in a simulator alone, both failed. They tried with help from an ATC, both were successful. Okay, so I had proposed this experiment during the bonus episode yesterday. It looks like Mythbusters, as always, is ahead of me. Thank you, Kimberly, for letting me know that. Much appreciated. Okay, Descender Dragon, member for 3 months, says, howdy, Dragon Daddy. It's a good day with John Farron, a strong strain of marijuana and the ongoing clown show that is the GOP. Cheers. I agree. Okay, Mazias Xenon, member for 21 months, says, so what's it gonna take for the Dem nomination to win the speaker role? Is that even a possibility? I don't believe that it's a plausible possibility. Some of the Republicans have fear-mongered about that happening, about a deal being cut, but I think it's statistically a far more likely deal that even this is unlikely, that some of the Democrats would switch over to help a different Republican become speaker. I don't believe that that's likely to happen, but who knows? I didn't expect we'd be on day 3, so. But thank you for the question. Progressive Canuck gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Progressive Canuck, much appreciated. Forrest Dudley, member for a full 2 years, says, always love to see Farron on the network. Love both of your channels, although I'm still waiting for you to do live stream chats more. Also, my condolences on living in Florida. Hope you find a way to get out soon. Well, I don't think you're trying to leave, right? Thank you.
Look, if it gets much worse down here, that's a real possibility. My wife absolutely wants to go. She wants to live where there's mountains and snow, but she's from Wisconsin, so she's used to the colder weather. I'm rather enjoying the 70s in January, to be honest with you. I know it's horrible for the planet, but for right now, it's comfortable. But no, look, if it gets worse, I'm out. Trust me, and it's gonna get worse. So eventually, it will.
Nice. Angie Pangie, member for 2 months, says, I'm gonna need more information on the dragon peeking out from behind the TV, please. Also, hi Farron, I'm in Florida too. Thanks for keeping me sane. So this is a dog costume that a fan sent in months ago, and Edwin put it up there and then put the gloves. It's not actually a massive dragon, but I have put Sprocket in it and it was quite cute. Okay, Nostra Science says, new drinking game. Take a shot every time far-right Republican Kevin McCarthy loses a House Speaker vote due to QAnon MAGA nuts. Yesterday after 6, the nation was soused. Today we're already getting tipsy. Yeah, that's a dangerous game, but I respect it. Okay, oh God, we're running out of time so fast. Okay, Basil over on Twitch, resubscribed. Thank you for that, much appreciated. Bama Raiders been here for 25 months. Thank you so much for being here. New Moon JLP as well, thank you. Okay, now let's have a little bit of fun, starting with this.
Nancy Pelosi's
You haven't answered my question. So if you have,
you cannot
yesterday
demand
you
more responsibility.
Yesterday you supported Jordan. Today you're supporting
Sean,
Donald.
That's not the way this works. We need a check and a balance on the third in line.
Who is your fight? Let's have a final answer. Who do you want to be Speaker of the House?
That's for the conference to decide. We need to come together.
Who do you want? I'm asking who you want.
What does it look like? Life after Kevin.
Yeah, just let them fight. So that was a representative sample of any 25 seconds from Lauren Boebert's interview with Sean Hannity last night. She's used to going on Fox News and there's no tough questions or anything. Not so in this case. She is trying as hard as she can to just repeat the talking points that she's come up. Every one of those lines I've heard her say a bunch of times in the last week, and he is not having it. I want to give you more of the back and forth because this is not like a brief time where he's disagreeing with her. That was the tenor of the full interview. Take a look at this.
We need to find somebody who can actually unify the Republican Party. I have offered plenty of names. Let some other folks start offering other alternatives.
There are 203 people and you have 20. I respect the 20 of you. I respect all of you. But I'm asking you, based on your own words,
you as well.
Who is your final? Let's have a final answer. Who do you want? Who will you only support to be Speaker? It's not that hard.
I'm willing to have conversations with the Republican conference to come up with a consensus candidate.
Yeah, she keeps saying that over and over again. She doesn't want to say an actual name. If you go back to that video, she makes a face when he cuts her off that she did not like that. And then her little, thanks, Sean, I respect you too. Maybe that was an honest attempt at diplomacy at that point. But I want to play one more video because, look, I don't like Sean Hannity. I think he's terrible on TV. He's a terrible guy in general, terrible for America. But he is at least asking specific follow-up questions to try to get a representative to answer a straight question, which is just, who do you want to be your candidate? Here's his 10th try at getting that answer.
The American people are certainly frustrated by.
I'm frustrated by you not answering a direct question. You said to President Trump, you said earlier today that President Trump needs to tell Kevin McCarthy, you don't have the votes.
We need to come up with a consensus candidate to elect a Speaker of the House.
You don't have the votes and it's time to withdraw. He has 203, your side has 20. Why is it time for him to withdraw and not you when he has so many more votes?
Well, Sean, he needs 218, and he does not have 218. We've been trying to work this out in private, as you said, for months. But Kevin McCarthy didn't even want to listen to us until his disappointing midterms. We all want a.
So again, you can see the visible frustration. She opened her mouth to jump in a couple of times. He's asking, I think, look, fairly fair questions there. She keeps saying he doesn't have the 218, but she doesn't. She has a tiny fraction of the 218. She will not address that. She just keeps saying 218. And honestly, as combative as they were there, and as much as I think she did a poor job of defending her side there, that came out, that interview is before all of the concessions. Now that he's made all those concessions she asked for, they really do look completely, they got so much out of this, Farron. So much additional power and specific crazy bills they're gonna vote on to still be against him at this point and pretend that it's principled rather than just, I don't want him as leader, which they don't want to say that, but you could say that. That's legitimate. You could say this is not actually primarily about a bill. I don't think he should be our leader, but they won't say that, but that clearly is what it is. What do you make of that little fight?
First of all, hilarious, and I loved every second of it, because it is funny to watch Hannity sit there over and over and say, what do you want? It's like when you're dealing with a 2-year-old that's crying and having a tantrum, and you don't know, but you gotta fix the situation, so you're just begging them, just tell me, point to what you want, and we will make it happen. For the love of God, just do it. And she can't even do it. She's like, well, I think, there's a person maybe somewhere that if we all agreed on it, we could do this. They have 10 times more people than you do, Lauren. I think you have your consensus candidate there. There's not even dozens of you. There's a dozen plus 8. That's what you have. You are losing in the numbers game here. But again, they've dug in. They've gotten all the concessions. And again, just to compare it to kids, it's like a parent saying, all right, listen, I'm gonna give you your snack, but after snack, you have to do your homework. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, we'll totally do the homework. But then they don't do the homework and you say, all right, well, I'll give you one more snack, but then you're really gonna do that homework. And they still don't do it because we're dealing with people that are acting like children. And no offense to any kids watching this who say, I'm not like a Republican at all. No, you're not. You're far more mature. But that is the level that we're dealing with, because these are truly people who I think genuinely don't know what they want or why they're opposed to this. They've been led to believe they are by Matt Gaetz, who's done a good job of blocking McCarthy, but eventually more conservative people are gonna have to ask the question Sean Hannity did, which is, what do you want when all of this is over?
Yeah, and just my final point here, this is probably clear to people who've been watching the show so far, but I feel about them very similar to how I feel about Kyrsten Sinema, in that I despise them. No, but I don't actually think they're fundamentally wrong. I don't think they're obligated to support Kevin McCarthy or anyone. The reason I think they're wrong is that I think that they're lying about why they're doing what they're doing. Kyrsten Sinema is not obligated to vote for a bill. I just hate that she's lying about why she's opposed to it. Just come out and say, I don't like this bill because it might marginally raise tax on corporations, or there might be a little bit more regulation on corporations, and I will never allow any of that to happen. I'm not here for you, I'm not here for the party or my constituents, I'm here for the corporations and the 1%. If she were to do that, I would still fundamentally hate her, but at least she'd be being honest. Lauren Boebert's not required to vote for Kevin McCarthy, but when she says, I will vote for him if he does these 5 things, and then he does those 5 things and you don't vote for him, well, then you lose whatever principle you were supposedly standing on. So we'll see, maybe in the 8th vote, but it's not looking good at this point. Okay, I think we should mix it up to a totally different topic. I'm sure we'll touch base with this once we launch into, or once we get to the 8th vote. But for now, why don't we totally mix things up and watch this.
This morning, after a dramatic rescue of all 4 passengers in a Tesla that plummeted off a 250-foot cliff in California, authorities have arrested the driver of the vehicle, charging him with attempted murder and child abuse. Investigators with California Highway Patrol say they believe the man, Dharmesh Patel, a doctor in radiology, drove the Tesla, carrying his wife and 2 children, ages 7 and 4, off the cliff as an intentional act.
So at this point, these are allegations that it was an intentional act. But if this is true, this is a tragedy. I mean, it's a tragedy either way. But if it's an intentional attempt to kill members of his family, this is just a devastating thing. There's no reason that politics needs to be involved in this. But if you were inclined to push past the tragedy to make this about politics, and the fact that it's a Tesla, I don't know, I would probably make some sort of comparison to the Tesla stock price going off a cliff or something. Beyond that, I don't see how this is good news for Elon Musk, but maybe I'm just not a good enough cultist of his, because fans of his have tried to make this out to be a good thing. And we're gonna give you a few examples of that. But first, here is more info on the actual rescue.
Rescuers rappelling down the cliff saved the 2 children first. Then a helicopter crew hoisted the 2 adults from the mangled vehicle. All were rushed to the hospital.
The damage to the vehicle would indicate that it hit and then flipped several times. Landed mostly on its wheels. We immediately put a plan in place to lower rescuers down to the vehicle to get eyes and assess what we had.
Authorities say it's very rare for people to survive such a steep fall, and that the children's car seats may have saved their lives.
We were actually very shocked when we found survivable victims in the vehicle. So that actually was a hopeful moment for us.
Yeah, it's honestly, when you see that, it's shocking that anyone survived, let alone everyone. It is, it's a secular miracle that actually happened. But right there, you saw rescuers say that the child safety seats probably saved the kids. Nuh-uh, it ain't those that saved them. It's Elon Musk, or at least that's what I see on Twitter. Bill Sparrows tweeted, those kids owe their lives to Elon Musk. Like him individually. Not the engineers who designed the car, not random chance, not God himself. But Elon Musk, the guy who technically is CEO of Tesla, even though he probably hasn't thought of Tesla in a few months, it's probably him. Jason says, this is why I drive a Tesla, safest cars imaginable, assuming they're not bursting into flame. He might have a point. Teslanomics says, if you're gonna fall off a cliff, you wanna be in a Tesla. I don't know, I'd probably avoid the falling off the cliff part of it, but Farron, there is nothing that they will not twist. Like honestly, when a Tesla bursts into flame, they'll probably say like, if I'm gonna be caught in a blizzard, I want it to be a Tesla. So at least it might warm me up. What do you think?
It's so weird, to watch how these people react, because I think they genuinely think that not only was Elon Musk the guy that personally designed these vehicles, but that he is in that workshop, just him, personally putting together each and every one of these cars, kissing it goodbye. Like, guys, he probably hasn't seen the inside of Tesla in months. Like, he doesn't know what's coming off the assembly line. He doesn't know what the engineers are working on, most likely. And he is not the one designing these safety features. You want to thank somebody, you want to owe your life to somebody, as they said in that tweet you read, you owe it to the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration. You owe it to the activists who fought for decades to increase the safety features in your car. You owe it to the government who put these regulations in place to make cars safer. I mean, that's who you should be thanking. Elon Musk didn't put those airbags in. He's not the one who installed the car seats. That was done because we have good laws that protect motorists.
Are you implying, Farron, that if we didn't have those regulations, Elon Musk wouldn't demand those things anyway out of the goodness of his heart? No, definitely not. Yeah, I don't think them being alive can go to Elon Musk. I personally don't think, I know people probably assume like, oh, you probably hate Tesla because you don't like Elon Musk. No, like I don't think Tesla has much to do with Elon Musk. So I don't hate it as a company. I hate some of its corporate culture and the culture of racism and sexual harassment and all that. I certainly hate that. In terms of the cars, I don't know how safe they are. I don't assume that every Tesla is gonna burst into flames simultaneously. But I also, again, I just want everyone to accept what Farron just laid out, that he was the CEO of Tesla, eventually, not even initially. He was a manager. He's not a coder, he's not an engineer, he is not Tony Stark. Like, can we finally push past that? He's not like, oh my God, I have a great idea at midnight. I'm gonna rush down. Oh, and then prototypes. He doesn't do that. He doesn't do any of that. He comes in every 3 months and demands something, and maybe some of his ideas are good, but it is the combined effort of hundreds of people who get it done, not him. It's all I want. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna take a short break. We'll be back after this. Okay, I wanna start off with this comment because this is going to be a Blue Apron comment. And I'm only giving it the Blue Apron comment both because I like the comment, but also because it came seconds before Farron launched into that really great breakdown of who is to blame for this. So I still give credit to RC Tycoon, who says, no, they owe their lives to the regulations and agency putting in place rules for the construction of passenger vehicles. RC Tycoon, you get a Blue Apron gift card. All you have to do is send in an email to rewards@tyt.com, your first, last name, email address, and the handle, and you get the Blue Apron gift card. They'll contact you. I really appreciate that. Again, we have to remember that regulations have been given almost exclusively a bad name when they're referenced publicly for literally decades. They also save people's lives constantly. So not every regulation that's ever been come up with is a good idea. You know, Louisiana making you give your license before you can log into like RedTube or whatever, probably not a great regulation, but lots of them are fine. So RC Tycoon, thank you for your comment. Okay, let's see. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon, said in the members' comments, LMFAO Farron, kick him in the grapes. Sounds about right to me. That right wingers have grapes rather than plums. They're all handed most of their balls over to Trump. Oh geez, this has gotten anatomical. Anyway, Albert Williams says, mainstream media is finally talking about the nihilism of the Republican Party. Where were they when the left was talking about it for years? Oh right, you were covering for corruption. Thank you for noticing that, but that is very much the experience when you are on the left of advocating for things, desperately trying to get people to accept the facts behind the values we hold, the policies we push for and all that, advocate for things that are gonna help people's lives. And then eventually society catches up or whatever. And at that point, it becomes common sense. Why are you guys claiming that you were in support of that? Everybody wants $15 an hour minimum wage now. Everybody's okay with same-sex marriage. Like, no, you guys weren't. What are you talking about? Anyway, Metal Rick says, when does Carrie Lake get a nomination? As a person from Arizona, I'm fine with anything that gets her out of the state. I agree, but I learned the last day that she is the duly elected governor of Arizona, so she's far too busy to serve as speaker. Anyway, Kyle Cushing says, at this rate, Santos is likely to be facing an extradition trial before he gets sworn in. Yeah, I bet he would really like for this speaker thing to end so that he could at least briefly be a congressman. Anyway, James Thompson says, potato, any way to hold up our people's GOV? Like if I say MTG versus AOC, you all get it. I'm actually a little bit lost now, but thank you for the comment, James Thompson, I appreciate it. Sergi says Gates has nominated Trump for House Speaker. Trump is furious that they want to hire him for an actual job. LOL. Yeah, right. Well, look, it's actually a little bit savvy by Matt Gaetz, to give the nod to Donald Trump as he is trying to sink the career of the person that Donald Trump endorsed. It's somewhat savvy. Okay, and Campbell says no McCarthy, no MAGA. We'll see. Meterbinian says, Matt Gaetz voted Trump for speaker, then giggled with MTG about it. P.S. Hey, Jake, told you I can make the TV say what I want. Love the show. Hey, don't make me say something so it proves to another person. Thank you for your comment. Janet says, at this point, an actual speaker with a subwoofer has a better chance of winning. Maybe, that's the consensus candidate. Sophia says, did any of the progressives try throwing their name into the mix based on the votes? It looks like they surrendered and voted for Jeffries. Yeah, I think that they universally, to stop Kevin McCarthy from getting elected, have gone by. Like I wish there was some discussion on the part of the minority leader, but we didn't get it, unfortunately. Maybe in 2 years, we'll see. Anyway, with that said, we've got more news to talk about, so don't go anywhere. Okay, everybody, we've got some news to talk about. A little bit of an update for you. Let's jump into it. For some time now, Andrew Tate has been held by Romanian authorities under allegations of sex trafficking, rape, a number of different criminal allegations, not necessarily individually against him, but some against him and some against his associates. And I'm sure that that's gotta hurt him, considering his high profile, regrettably, as well as the fact that this came about at the tail end of an incredibly embarrassing set of interactions with Greta Thunberg. But as much as that hurt, I'm not sure it'll hurt as much as this. His Bugatti and 10 of his other luxury cars have been seized by the authorities. So now he doesn't even have anything to lord over Greta. Poor guy. Anyway, they seized the car collection estimated to be worth over 5 million euros, as well as a number of buildings, including one where the brothers lived and allegedly held 6 young women. Apparently, they are now going to be held, 4 suspects, including Tate, for 30 days after a judge lengthened their initial detention period of 24 hours. The decision was not final, and the subjects have the right to appeal. So, don't lose the fact that they could potentially be out at any given time. But right now, this looks more serious. If in addition to being held, it gets lengthened, property is actually being seized, Farron, it looks like this thing is developing fast.
Yeah, if you come for Greta, you best not miss. I think that's the big lesson here. But listen, this week, I actually had the opportunity to speak with somebody who is a human trafficking survivor. She's now an attorney and advocate working on behalf of human trafficking victims and survivors. And one of the things we talked about was the recruiting methods that these traffickers use. And trafficking, by the way, doesn't necessarily mean like the movie Taken. A lot of it happens within the home. A lot of it happens in relationships. A lot of it is unhoused people that kind of get sucked into this. But what we've learned about Andrew Tate, mostly from what he has openly admitted over the years, is identical to what human traffickers do. This whole lover boy scam, basically. They psychologically manipulate these women. They can be physically abusive. They're always verbally abusive, sometimes sexually abusive. And that's one of the things that this woman I spoke to talked about, was the fact that if you take somebody that has been abused, whether sexually or even just physically repeatedly, and you can threaten them and you can say, listen, you've been through these horrendous situations before. I don't want to have to put you through that again. So instead, go work on this webcam thing for me. Let's go make money over here. And that, of course, was one of the businesses, I guess you would call it, that the Tates had been running. So it's horrifying to read these stories about Tate, because again, I've worked very closely with this individual for quite some time now, and I've heard the stories. I've talked to other victims, and it's just it's textbook. It is textbook of what these traffickers do.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. It is just the entire every bit of it is disgusting. We get a little bit of, I guess, Schadenfreude out of Greta making him look ridiculous, but only because in comparison to how dark the entire thing is. And more details come out, and every detail is absolutely terrible. Apparently, 7 years before his most recent arrest, he was investigated over allegations of sexual assault and physical abuse in the UK at that point. 2 women told Vice World News they were violently abused, one raped, the other repeatedly strangled by Andrew Tate himself. And the UK police and the Crown Prosecution Service mishandled their case leaving him free to, of course, develop his career and go on to, at least allegedly, abuse and victimize other women as well. Apparently, police took 4 years to pass their investigation to the Crown Prosecution Service. That's the organization whose job it is to assess whether there's a realistic prospect of conviction, at which point they declined to prosecute. One woman said that Tate used a similar method of emotional and physical control in his UK webcam business back in 2015 before he headed over to Romania. When I said that he saw that he was arrested in Romania, I was shocked and didn't know how to react. I cried. Everything I read is what I told the police at the time of the complaint. If the CPS had just pulled their finger out, none of this would have happened. And not only would he have been brought to justice, but a lot of people might not have suffered as much as they did over the years. So that is definitely something that needs to be looked into, that decision. But the thing, Farron, for me that's so terrible about this is in a much darker way, it reminds me of some of the Elon Musk stuff. It's bad enough the individual crimes they do, but when they're able to generate this cult following that no amount of revelation of who they actually are, the terrible things that they do, the things that they believe and advocate for, seems to be able to crack. Elon Musk is as beloved by his fans after months of him being an absolute buffoon on a daily basis. And I don't know if Andrew Tate ever makes it out as a free man again, but if he does, I guarantee he's gonna have a loyal following for his videos or whatever the hell it is that he does for money. And that's just so depressing.
Well, and we've already seen, the Tate supporters coming out, all these little weirdos on Twitter, the whole Matrix thing, right? When he was arrested, like, oh, it's whatever reference they're trying to make there. I don't even fully understand it, but they are like you're right. They're willing to excuse anything that these individuals are accused of, whether it's Tate's cult, Elon's cult, Trump's cult. It doesn't matter because they have invested so much of themselves into these people that they will not see the bad things. They will always have an excuse for it, or it will always be made up, right? You can't believe these things, it's not true. But it's because they have put themselves into that person, right? It's not just that you're attacking Elon, you're attacking them. And they take it all just as personally. And it's this deep, psychosis that takes hold of these individuals. And we've got to find a way, and I don't know how to do it, but we have to find a way to pull these people out of it. It's okay to have heroes. It's okay to be like, hey, I like this musician, they're really great. But if they do something terrible, I'm not gonna excuse that. I'm still going to think it's bad. I think a great example of that, is everything Michael Jackson was accused of, right? Mm-hmm. Some great music. I'm not gonna turn it off when it comes on, my Pandora station. But you have to be able to understand people do bad things. People can create good things and be bad people. That doesn't make the good thing they've created a bad thing, but they lump it all together. This person is great, everything they've done is good. If they've done something bad, it's because somebody's lying about them somewhere. It's just, I don't know, I can't even describe it.
Yeah, well, certainly a long battle we're gonna have to continue to be engaged in, an alternative to these just terrible predators who are preying, in this case, literally on women, but also on men to try to make them want to be like them. There has to be an alternative presented to that. Okay, I could talk about that for a long time, but we do have one more story I want to talk about in the time we have remaining. So I want everyone to be warned. This is a video showcasing police brutality, so bear that in mind as we go forward.
He's hitting her? He's hitting her? What the
So what you're seeing right there is a cop in New York repeatedly bludgeoning a 14-year-old girl, Kiana Robinson, in the back of the head over and over and over again. A full-grown man, a 14-year-old girl, as fast and as hard he can bludgeon the back of her head, that's what he's doing. And it apparently started when Kiana Robinson's 12-year-old sister got in a fight with another girl earlier this week. I don't see how any of that should lead to a full-grown man brutalizing a young girl, but it's hardly novel in America right now. So leading up to the full video, there's more video available. Apparently, Kiana Robinson saw an officer pushing her sister or putting her sister in handcuffs. She's seen approaching and then nudging the cop who pushes back. Now, as a result of this, the NYPD is investigating. They say they became aware of the incident that occurred on Staten Island when officers responded to a fight between a group of youths. The actions of these officers is under investigation. One officer has been suspended. I love how passive that tweet is. They responded to a fight, not are clearly on video beating a 14-year-old girl. We'll leave that to you to research and figure out. So incredibly passive. They say this, by the way, we're gonna look at the body cam of the police officers. That's why body cameras are good. We're gonna use the video that was posted on Instagram. I was not pleased with what I saw in the video. That's Eric Adams, okay? Then retired NYPD Sergeant Keith Taylor says, the officers may not have known the age of the individual. The fact that the officer was hitting this individual above the chest and the head area, that would be an initial cause for concern, but without context, it's difficult to understand why it occurred. No, I mean, look, yeah, I wonder why it occurred, but I don't know what context could come out that would justify what we saw. Look at the body cameras. Sure, we should have body cameras. If we have, we should look at them, but nothing on the body cam is going to magically make the video that we've already seen not have happened. That happened. And if someone wants to come up with a bit of context that makes it acceptable to beat the back of the skull of a teenager, okay, you can try, but I don't get it, Farron. What do you think?
Well, John, you don't know that the cop knew she was just a teenager. The cop may have thought it was a 50-year-old woman he was bludgeoning in the streets of New York. Like, why does the age even matter at that point? Like, I didn't know she was just a kid. I wouldn't have almost killed her. That's a whole, I mean, but I think that is what we're dealing with these just renegade police officers throughout the United States. I mean, we're lucky that this young woman is not dead. I mean, we have seen far too much of it. The report that came out this week, 1,176 people killed by cops in 2022, only 12 days out of the entire calendar year when cops didn't report killing someone, just 12 days. And I hate to say, look at the silver lining that they didn't kill her, but my God, that's almost where we are with police in the United States today. We have to be glad when they just beat somebody instead of murdering them in the street.
That's the tragic ranking system we have to have here. By the way, one other, Carol Smith, retired NYPD officer, says, imagine being put in that situation and how would you react? Well, hopefully not the same way. Hopefully their training and all of that would cause them to react better than me. That's how I would respond to that. Anyway, that's all the time we have for our first hour. More show to come in the aftermath. We'll see you after this. Welcome to the Aftermath, everybody, with me, John Iadarola, and continue to be joined by Farron Cousins. Farron, as always, thank you for being here. I know that your days are already busy enough without joining other people's programs, so thank you.
It's always a pleasure. I really enjoy this.
No, it's always great to get a chance to break down the news with you. Let's see what's going on out there in the audience before we jump into it. Lisa Dodson says in a super chat, Marge just wants her committees back, 100%, which is why it was so funny when yesterday she's like, about Matt Gaetz and Lauren Boebert, like all of these people who are just trying to get something. I don't want anything. Well, you already got what you wanted. You're gonna be back on committees or whatever. Ugh. Virginia Thomas says the family in the car needs to thank Ralph Nader. That's a good point. That's a very good point, Virginia. Cat Blaine says, shouldn't the Dems use all these concessions to try to get some moderate Republicans to vote for Jeffries? Like some of these deals are just nuts. I mean, look, I think that they should. And just the fact that many of them, including AOC, are saying that they're not trying to do that does not mean that they're not trying to do that. But it's just like, think about how the Republican base would react to Republican Congress people crossing over. Like that's arguably maybe worse than what Liz Cheney has done. Like you would be, I think, dead, right? Politically, Farron, if you were to help get Jeffries elected speaker.
Absolutely, and just my opinion here, I think the Democrats need to avoid having any kind of leadership position in this hellhole of a House we're about to have. Like, you don't want them to be seen as the leader of any of it, because we know what to expect the next 2 years, and we know the Democrats need to run on it in 2024. So don't cut a deal to put a Democrat as the House Speaker, because oh no, then suddenly they're gonna get blamed for all the horribleness that comes from this. Nope, just let the Republicans fight it out.
Yeah, that is a great point. If they do try to make a deal, the reason why I think it's far more likely for a few Democrats to cross over and vote with the more reasonable Republicans is you would be dead as a Republican to get a Democrat elected speaker. But as a Democrat, you could at least make the case that, well, I got a better Republican. There was never gonna be a Democrat, but I got a better Republican. It's still risky though, for the reasons that Farron pointed out. You don't wanna be tied to it at all. Okay, let's jump into some news. We're gonna eventually get to some fun tech stuff. It's gonna start off pretty unfortunate though. Let's launch into this.
The transient lifestyle has now become glamping. Yep. It's like you can go, you can get a tent, you can live there, and this is what happens. And I think what's happening is even the outreach, the volunteers, the people that work with the homeless are saying, man, this is just a scheme. This is now, people are just doing it because they can live above and beyond civil society, which I get. You know, I understand what she's talking about. No boss, no bills, no mortgages, free meds, free meals. But there's got to be some reciprocity to society. Don't make our lives hell. You can have your commune in the desert. Hell, I'll help pay for that. But you can't be on the street defecating. You can't, scare the crap out of our kids, right? You can't make our lives a living hell. We get it. We understand that that you don't want to live by our rules, but then you don't get to live with us, right? It's like it's like the parents cutting off the drug addict and kicking them out of the house, no matter how much they love them. Cities have to do this. They're homeless by choice. They are not your children. They are not your responsibility. We are paying for that responsibility, and it's their lifestyle. We are supporting a lifestyle. It's time to stop.
It is difficult on Fox News to out-disgusting Tucker Carlson, but if there's anyone who could do it, it's Gutfeld. That was reprehensible, disgusting, entitled, rich, noble, looking down on the peasants BS is all that was. And it would be bad enough if you had just a multimillionaire who would go on TV and talk to an audience of millions and say, I hate the unhoused, I despise them, I don't want them to be here. That would be bad enough. But to come out and say, oh, I despise them, I hate them, and I don't want them to be here because they've got it too good. They're getting one over on you. All of you other wealthy middle-class people watching this TV, sitting on your couch in your living room with a roof above your head, you're getting screwed over because they're out there glamping with their free meals that they've got. Don't you wish you could go to a soup kitchen? Don't you wish you could live as large as the unhoused are living? It is the combination of like from a supposedly populist network, the disgusting anger at people who have the least in society, and then lying to pretend that they're the best off, Farron.
It's shocking. It's just genuinely shocking to hear this man who, as you say, probably got millions of dollars worth of contracts with Fox News, sitting there saying, by God, these people are living it up, pooping in the street, and you're having to pay bills. Wouldn't you much rather be these people? But we got to get them out of here. I'll pay for to move them to the desert. I don't even know. I don't even know how he comes up with this. I don't know how you can convince your own brain that this is something that should be said out loud. I mean, beyond reprehensible, as you say. These are people that are victims of this system of capitalism we have in the United States today. They are victims of the job market, victims of bad politics, victims of drug dependencies, victims of mental illness, people that do need help. And you're sitting there demonizing them by saying they're living the high life in a tent, under the overpass, while you're somehow worse off than I don't know. I just beyond despicable. I don't even know what to say.
Imagine if Greg Gutfeld had to spend one honest week with nothing, just trying to survive, no benefit of the many powerful rich people that he knows, the organizations set up to defend him, his PR teams, his personal assistants, his makeup artists, his personal driver, likely his butler. If he was stripped of all of that for 1 week and just had to survive, it'll never happen. He would never do it. And if they did set up something like that, they would cheat. They would just cheat. But the idea that you could believe that is, it's like Farron said, how could you get your brain to accept the idea that, like, imagine if you just had to spend one night, let's say you have a house. You have to sleep in your backyard tomorrow. You don't get a tent, you don't get anything. You're literally, you're gonna be fine in the morning. You just have to be uncomfortable, exposed to the weather for one night. Who would want to do that? Knowing that they'll be perfectly fine in the morning. The idea that you could convince yourself that there are millions of people who are doing this by choice is so counter to everything everyone knows about the choices we make, how desperate we are to keep employment, to have money, to not lose our apartment or not lose our house. And everybody knows that. I don't know why I have to try to convince them of this. They all know that this is true. They just want a reason to feel morally superior for wishing that this community was gone. And that's why when he says go to the desert, that's like the most transparent part of this. He wants them to go to the desert and he wants them to die. Like, I don't want to mince words anymore. He wishes all of these people were dead. That's what it is. It's not the only community that he wishes was utterly wiped out, but this is one that the Five regularly goes to. We talk about it on the show constantly, and it's almost always a video from the Five. They despise the unhoused.
Well, you know what too though? This harkens back to Ronald Reagan's attack on welfare recipients. Oh, these people are living it up on the government assistance here. Well, you're struggling in your 9-to-5 job. You can't pay your bills, and it's because of these people. These others, whatever the others are at the time, whatever's politically expedient for these people, we're gonna make you hate them so you feel better about your lot in life and don't question why those of us at the top have so much and you have so little. It's not because of us, it's because of the poors, right? Those are the others that the Five is trying to use to get people to hate them. No, the people sitting around that table, those are the ones you should be hating.
By the way, really fast, in Missouri, new state law took effect just a couple days ago, makes it a crime for any person to sleep on state property. For unhoused people, sleeping in public parks or under city highways could mean up to $750 in fines or 15 days in prison for multiple offenses. I've never seen a policy that makes more sense than fining people $750 who are so desperate that they're sleeping out in the open on state property. What percentage of regular people, I'm like speaking specifically to the people watching this, how would you feel if you got a $750 fine right now? Up until not that many years ago, I would have been utterly. I remember when I got $165 ticket. I was going to my restaurant. I worked at a restaurant as a waiter, and my heart almost stopped when I saw what the ticket was. I had a job. I had an apartment. I actually had 2 jobs at that point. I was a tutor at UT and I was working at an Indian restaurant. And $165 almost left me weeping because of how big of a hit it is. Someone who's literally sleeping on a bench, you're gonna charge $750. Anyway, there's a bunch of other, LA is banning homeless encampments within 500 feet of schools and daycares. Eric Adams made it so city officials have outlawed houseless people from sleeping on the city's subway system or riding the trains at night. And so, look, it's all over the place. It ain't just on the 5. Anyway, that said, I'm gonna read a comment or 2, and then we're gonna lighten things up with a little bit of tech conversation. Trimu Butiki, as always, thank you for being with us. 30 months over on Twitch, glad to have you here. Gomez says that South Carolina's Supreme Court struck down a ban on abortion. We're definitely gonna have to look into that for tomorrow. Ashley is nodding yes. Hey, a little bit of good news. You know what? I need some other good news. There it is. Right now, Donald's is once again nominated. He's got 4 votes. There's 2 others. I don't know if those are for Trump or whatever, but well, he's already at 6, and so down goes McCarthy for number 7. Jeez. Or 8. No, it's 8 actually. I'm starting to lose track of how many times he's been voted down. Anyway, okay, let's see. Kelly's been a member for 24 months, has demanded a Sprocket Dragon photo. Hi, John and Farron, hello to you as well. Noelia says they see themselves in these horrible people, and if these bad people do a bad thing, they do not want to believe it can mean something about themselves. I think it's a reference to the Andrew Tate thing. Thank you. I also think that it's not just the attachment they have. Like you might have an attachment to an actor or something that you like. It's that these people all present themselves as a model to be followed. These people don't just like Andrew Tate, they want to be Andrew Tate. They think they literally go to his online university to learn how to do what he does. If what he does results in him going to prison, then I guess the light at the end of the tunnel that they thought they had for their lives now looks like that's actually apocalyptic. And so that's unacceptable. It's not just that their identity is wrapped up in this person, their future is wrapped up in the model that this person has presented. And so they have to believe that it's not a fair thing that he's gonna go to prison. This is clearly the system striking back against an independent or whatever. Anyway, with that said, why don't we lighten things up with this? ChatGPT has been all over the news recently. This chatbot that allows you to put in prompts and get text back that was produced by an AI. It's been all over the place. One place it is not gonna be soon is in New York's education system. It has been banned for safety and accuracy. Neither students nor teachers, by the way, will be able to access ChatGPT on education department devices or internet networks at the actual schools. If you're not familiar with ChatGPT, the program uses machine learning to come up with its own custom-made responses to specific prompts. It can pull and compile historical facts, write in specific styles, and make convincing logical arguments, all with nearly perfect grammar, unless a user gives a prompt to add grammatical errors. The Education Department of New York City put out a statement to accompany this ban saying, due to concerns about negative impacts on student learning and concerns regarding the safety and accuracy of content, access to ChatGPT is restricted on New York City public schools networks and devices. While the tool may be able to provide quick and easy answers to questions, it does not build critical thinking and problem-solving skills, which are essential for academic and lifelong success. So I do not think that this is gonna be the last ban, Farron. I think that we're gonna see this pretty broadly. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, who could have thought that students would start using a program to basically do all their work for them? I mean, look, it's the kind of thing that as a student, whether you're middle school, high school, college, you dream of this, right? Like that is your absolute goal is, oh my God, I've struck gold here. So yeah, look, I understand 100% why you have to ban this thing in schools. And to me, it really is remarkable how far technology has come. It's a little bit scary as I get older. Technology is more and more scary. I'm about to hit 40 in a month or so. So, I get more scared of it by the day. But it makes me think back when I was in college, which was early 2000s, they would actually tell us like, listen, you've got to write a paper but you can't use sources from the internet.
Yeah.
You have to go to the library. You have to find books. Do not look on that crazy internet thing. You just use that to illegally download music. But now we're at the point where obviously we understand, okay, the internet is not a bad thing. That is a great thing. It is a phenomenal resource. And so in time, what the point I'm trying to make is there could be an evolution of this to where the ChatGPT could end up being very valuable to students. But it's kind of a wait and see type thing. Let's figure it out. Let's find out how we could use it to teach a lesson if we need to. But until then, no internet, just the books. That's kind of what I see happening.
Yeah, I think that there is a case to be made for ways that it could be integrated into a student's workflow to help them do some sorts of things. But, and maybe this is just me becoming an old man or whatever, I do think you have to be able to learn. You have to learn to make arguments. You have to learn to do research. Like, those are important things, and not just for like talking about Moby Dick. It's important for all parts of your life. And I do not think that ChatGPT is the first thing that's making it so that people won't do that. I think that's, as you pointed out with the internet, there's lots of ways that people have avoided doing work. You've been able to buy, essays online for a very long time. This is really fast and really easy, and so I totally get why they would ban it. It does seem like just banning it on the school, like you could still use it at home. And I know that you don't have any control over that, but I do think that we're probably gonna have to turn to more like, I don't know, oral examinations or questions in the moment, less pre-produced essays and stuff. Like, you have to actually test if people know this stuff. Anyway, I've used ChatGPT quite a bit. I have found it to be, in some cases, pretty amazing in what it can do. I also find it to be incredibly limited in a lot of different ways, that it takes a bit of work to understand. But as of right now, there have been tests where they've had students do papers in ChatGPT, and people who grade them can't tell the difference. Like, now people are already starting to develop AI that can tell the difference. That might be helpful, in the same way that there are plagiarism detecting softwares that have been deployed for some time. Even back when I was a TA, I had access to those. But yeah, we can't give up on actually learning things for ourselves. That's my only point.
No, and I agree with you on that. I mean, we really have to get the critical thinking skills. We have to teach people not just to have them, but how to properly use them. And that is such a big thing, especially because not only do we have this unlimited access to information, we have unlimited access to misinformation. And that is, the double-edged sword that this digital age has given us. Everybody can have a voice, but a lot of folks out there just want to mislead you. They want to deceive you. I mean, you and I know this very well with what we do. For every one of us, there's 100 out there telling you things that are just straight up lies that they've made up. So you've got to be able to teach students, at any age, really, how to sift through the BS, really, is what I think. And that only comes from getting them these critical thinking skills.
Exactly, yeah. You know what? I think we're gonna save our robot lawyer for tomorrow, just because I want to briefly be able to end our show where we started our show, which is knee deep in the failures of Kevin McCarthy, because he's lost again. 10 votes already going to other candidates. He's narrowly beating Hakeem Jeffries by 1 point, but he's lost for the 8th time. It is possible a 9th will come. I have a dumb question. What was supposed to be different this time? And if they do a 9th vote, what's supposed to be different there? Like, I feel like they did this turnaround between the 7th and 8th vote super fast. Had they even talked, or are they just wasting our time at this point, Farron? What is supposed to be changing here? Did he make more concessions?
See, that's such a good point, because I mean, look, you and I have now been sitting here talking throughout the 7th and 8th vote. So there is no way that Kevin McCarthy had enough time to say, okay, real quick, look, here's my new list of demands. I just heard this bald guy say that I gotta let you kick me each day, whatever, we're gonna do that. You do it right now if you want, but let's go vote. No, you have to say like, okay, listen, we're gonna adjourn for a couple hours. I'll bring in food, I'll do whatever it takes. Let's talk instead of just saying, all right, tee it up again. Let's go, let's go. And the other question too is like, are we at a 3-a-day limit? So after the 9th, do we all get to go home and start paying attention at noon again tomorrow? Because we've had 3 Tuesday, 3 Wednesday. We just, we're almost done with 2 on Thursday. I'm hoping we don't get to 4. I'm hoping we can end it at 2 today. You know what? Let everybody go home early. Maybe adjourn until Monday. Come up with a plan, because y'all are just making yourselves look stupid. It's great content for us. Don't get me wrong. I am loving every second of it, but they've got to understand how stupid they look, and they've got to eventually look in the mirror and say, we can't do this for all of eternity. We've got to come up with a real plan here, and they don't have one right now.
They don't have it. He didn't speak, by the way. I thought maybe he would at least give a speech. If he did, I didn't see even a second of it. So he's just rolling the dice again. Well, it looks like you came up snake eyes. Anyway, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for our show today. Farron, as always, thank you for joining us. Where can people watch you?
YouTube.com/TheRingOfFire, YouTube.com/Farron Balanced, and Twitter, Instagram, Facebook @Farron Balanced.
Nice. Good to talk to you, man. Have a good day.
You too.
For everyone at home, I will remind you, as always, on Thursdays, you have one piece of homework to do, or at least one chore. It is preparing for the Garbage People of the Week. You can head over to the community tab of our YouTube page and vote for the Community Garbage Person of the Week. Tomorrow, Brett Ehrlich is going to join me. We're going to be revealing our picks. I think I already know mine. It is disgusting. It's a story that I hope you haven't heard of. What someone chose to do, a way that they misrepresented themselves, utterly disgusting. They might be my Garbage Person of the Week, but you have to tune in tomorrow to find out. Indisputable's up next. For now, though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.